If you're working as a health, fitness, or a wellness professional, it can be crucial to understand the importance of proper bile flow and also understand the signs that your client's bile may not be flowing properly. Some of the health issues that can come about from poor bile flow include things like IBS, skin issues, high blood pressure, nutrient deficiencies, and I could go on and on for a really long time. So in this video, I'm going to share 10 signs that your clients are having problems with bile flow. Because if you can seek this out and figure out who needs help improving their bile flow, you can help them improve all kinds of craziness. Let's jump in.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
Helping clients take steps to improve their bile flow is probably one of the most common steps that I take with clients to help them improve specific health symptoms, to help them lose weight much easier, and even help their body operate at a higher level. So it's a really big deal. Now, bile is a soapy substance that's made by the liver, and it helps us digest our food correctly, and it also helps us detoxify and get junk out of the body. So the problem is, it's really common these days for someone's bile to become too thick and sticky to flow correctly. And then when it doesn't flow correctly, it can't do all the jobs that it's intended to do. So we're going to look at 10 signs that can show up when bile is not flowing correctly. Now keep in mind that these signs are not diagnostic. These are just signs and signals that give you hints of how the body is operating. So sign number 1 is a light colored stool. So if a client's stool, and you can just ask your client, hey, is your stool light or dark, or is it darker than the color of corrugated cardboard? That's what you want to know, because bile is this green substance, and when it mixes with the stool that leaves the stomach, then it creates a brown colored stool. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for a dark brown stool. So if stool is very light or yellow or pale, that's a really strong sign that this green bile is not coming down and meeting with the acidic food that leaves the stomach. That's going to make the brown stool. To explain how this works a little bit better, let's look at sign number 2, which is a loose stool. If someone is dealing with chronic loose stools or chronic diarrhea, or even one of the more fancy diagnoses of these chronic diarrhea issues that people deal with, all of these are signs of poor bile flow. Now there are other issues that can create a chronic loose stool, but in most cases, it's an issue of bile not flowing correctly. So when a client eats foods, their stomach makes hydrochloric acid, or HCl, and this helps acidify that food and start to break it down. And when the acidic food leaves the stomach and goes into the duodenum, which is the first 10 inches of the small intestine, that's when the gallbladder squirts this alkaline bile down onto the acidic product that left the stomach, and it helps to neutralize those acids. So if bile is not flowing correctly, those acids don't get neutralized, and they continue to move through the intestinal tract in their acidic state. Now, the stomach was made to hold those acids, but the intestinal tract is not. So if it continues to move through that intestinal tract in its acidic state because it didn't get neutralized by alkaline bile, then it's going to start burning up the intestinal lining. That acid is made to break down proteins. Well, guess what our intestinal lining is made of? It's protein. So if it's in that acidic state, it's going to burn a hole right through there, and they're going to leak cheeseburgers all over their insides. So the body doesn't want this to happen, and it'll bring all the water it can to that intestinal tract to kind of cool off those acids, and then speed it out the back door as fast as it can go, and it lifts the client off the toilet and shoots him in the air like a rocket. So this is often the cause of these chronic loose stool issues. It's just an inability to neutralize the acids that are leaving the stomach because bile is not flowing correctly. Sign number 3 is chronic or recurring nausea issues. So most people know that the liver's job is to filter junk and toxins out of the body. We know that kind of stuff. What most people don't know is the liver takes a lot of those toxins and puts them in the bile. Then the bile goes down through the intestinal tract, and it carries those filth and toxins out through the intestinal tract and out the back door when we poop like a champion. So the problem is, if bile isn't flowing correctly, those toxins don't go out the back door. Those toxins get re-assimilated into the system, and now the system starts to become toxic because the liver starts to filter out the same junk over and over again. And as the liver gets overwhelmed, these toxins accumulate, and then it becomes a situation where the person will just feel nauseous because the body's like saying, hey, don't send more stuff down here. We're having a hard time dealing with all this junk we have right now. Don't send anything else down. So the person just won't have an appetite and they'll feel a little bit nauseous. We're going to come back to this nausea in a minute, but sign number 4 for poor bile flow is high blood pressure. So when we're looking at our blood pressure, we're basically looking at protein and minerals and glucose and even filth and toxins that are in the bloodstream. So if bile is not flowing correctly, those toxins that the liver is filtering out are not going out the back door. They're not getting removed. So they stay around in the system. More toxins and junk stay in the bloodstream and thicken up that blood. And when the blood is thicker, it takes more pressure to push it through the system. So all those things, those minerals and the glucose and the protein and the filth and the junk, if any of those accumulate more in the bloodstream, it's going to thicken it up and raise the blood pressure. So one of the more common causes of high blood pressure is just filth and junk that can't get moved out the back door because bile is not flowing correctly. Now there are other things that can raise blood pressure, but when you can help a client improve bile flow and bile that isn't moving, all the starts going and all the trash starts going out the back door, blood pressure can really come down quite quickly. So if you have a client that's on blood pressure medications and you're going to help them take steps to improve their bile flow, you really need to tell them to watch your blood pressure pretty much daily. You need to watch it and see how it is, because if they lower blood pressure naturally, their blood pressure lowering medication is going to continue to push it down further. The medication doesn't balance it, it's only meant to push it down. So if you take steps to lower blood pressure naturally, the medication will continue to push it down and they can create some symptoms that we see with low blood pressure, things like depression and dizzy spells and crazy cravings and emotional issues. So you really want them to watch their blood pressure so that when it starts to go too low, they can then work with their doctor to reduce that dose so that the blood pressure doesn't go too low and create all those problems. Sign number 5 is low blood pressure. What? Yeah, so sign number 4 was high blood pressure, because high blood pressure is a possible sign of poor bile flow, but also poor bile flow can create low blood pressure for totally different reasons. Here's how it works. When we talked before about the stomach acidifying that food and then it leaves the stomach and then the gallbladder squirts the bile down to meet it to kind of neutralize those acids, another thing happens. When alkaline meets acid like that, when those collide, it creates a sizzle. And that sizzle is what helps us really bust that food apart and pull all the minerals and nutrients out of that food. So when blood pressure is low, that's a sign of a lack of minerals in the system. Now it's possible for someone to be peeing out too many minerals and that can make their blood pressure go low, but it's more common to have digestive malfunctions where either one side of digestion or both sides are not working correctly and they can't really pull all the minerals and nutrients out of that food. So you can just have a client check their blood pressure. They can do this at home. You don't even have to do it. They can pick up a blood pressure cuff at a pharmacy for $30 or $40. And you want them to look at their blood pressure at least 2 hours after a meal, but not first thing in the morning when they're fasted. It should really be 2 hours after a meal. And if that systolic number, which is the top number, is below 112, that's a really strong sign that minerals are very low in this system. So it's really common for this to be caused by bile not flowing correctly. Also, if a client has like known nutrient deficiencies, it's pretty much usually the same situation where there's just not a sizzle there helping them bust their food apart and pull all those nutrients out of the food. So it's possible that they're not making enough stomach acid, or it's possible that bile is not flowing correctly, or it's possible that both could be going on. So helping clients fix these digestive malfunctions can create all kinds of crazy improvements to a wide variety of issues. So if you don't know how to do that, my book Health Pro Results walks you through how to help clients figure out which aspects of digestion are not working correctly, and if so, what steps will help them improve those. And the book is available on Amazon, but I'm going to put a link in the description below this video where you can get the whole thing totally for free, and then I'll walk you through that process and help clients improve those digestive issues, because it can be a whole world of craziness when you can help them improve that. Sign number 6 for poor bile flow is if a client has difficulty digesting fats. So if they consume a meal that has a little bit higher fat in it and they feel really lousy like after that meal, that's a really strong sign that they're not digesting those fats. So bile is this soapy substance that helps us emulsify or break down our dietary fats. And the dietary fats need to be broken down for the body to utilize them. If they can't get broken down, they try to break down by process of rotting or fermenting, and then they kind of just make the whole system a little bit toxic with these undigested fats. Now the person's going to feel a little bit nauseous maybe, and that takes us right back to that nausea issue. Now to understand how this can get a little bit worse, let's look at sign number 7, which is skin issues or acne. So what happens is when these digestive fats can't get broken down correctly, if they start to accumulate too much, the body may try to push some of them out through the pores in our skin. And if those pores get clogged, then it creates acne or other skin issues. Now other toxins and junk can also be pushed out through the skin if they start to accumulate too much, but both of these issues kind of lead us back to poor bile flow, whether the bile is not emulsifying and breaking down those dietary fats and they're getting pushed out through the skin, or toxins and filth is not being taken out the back door because bile isn't flowing correctly, and so these toxins and filth are trying to be pushed out through the skin. So both issues can lead back to a need to improve bile flow so the body can function the way that it wants to function. Sign number 8 is if a client is taking a medication that can raise estrogen levels. So it appears that high estrogen has the ability to thicken up the bile so it won't flow correctly. And clients taking these type of medications is really common. So if somebody's on birth control that raises estrogen, that's really common to create bile flow issues. And there's also other medications that can raise estrogen levels. A lot of medications are made to raise estrogen levels. Hormone replacement therapy is very popular. Like all the cool kids are doing estrogen therapy now. So a lot of these people are taking medications that will really raise estrogen. And the problems is that high estrogen can thicken up the bile so it doesn't flow correctly, and then it creates all these other problems. So raising estrogen can sometimes improve symptoms, but it can also create this other problem in the long term. Sign number 9 is a saliva pH below 6.5. So you can have a client pick up some pH testing strips at a local health store or maybe on Amazon, and they can test their saliva pH. Again, you want to do this 2 hours after a meal, but not first thing in the morning while they're fasting. And if that saliva pH is below 6.5, that's a really strong sign of a toxic environment. And when we're seeing a toxic environment, we're assuming that the trash can't be taken out because bile is not flowing correctly and those toxins are getting reassimilated. So this is a great way for clients to monitor, hey, am I improving the issue, by just watching my saliva pH and seeing if it's come up when somebody has a saliva pH that's way too low. And sign number 10 is another test clients can do at home. They can pick up some 10-parameter urinalysis test strips. You can usually find these on Amazon. And on these test strips, you'll see bilirubin and urobilinogen. Those are 2 of the parameters. And if a client shows higher levels of bilirubin or urobilinogen, both of those are signs that bile is not flowing correctly. So this is a great way for them to check their progress as well. So it's nice when clients can check some body chemistry stuff at home instead of just looking at symptoms to really get a confirmation if they're creating some improvement to their bile flow issues. So keep in mind that most clients are not going to show all of these signs, but any of these signs can be an indication that bile is not flowing correctly. So it can be really important to understand how to help clients improve that bile flow. So jump over right now and watch our video on 5 steps to help clients improve bile flow so you can get insights on steps that you can help them do to get that going again. I can't wait to hear about your results.